Hello everyone, we are here at Cosmos 2025 and I'm delighted to be sat opposite Maximilian from the Austrian Central Bank, the Austrian National Bank. Max, how are you?
Thank you for having me here. I'm fine. I had a great event, exciting place to be, great discussions, great people to exchange thoughts from, and yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic. It is very interesting. We were just talking a little bit off camera and I've spoke to a few people at this event. We're at a crypto event where multiple different national banks are. I feel like crypto has come a very long way. You know, we were all sandals and sort of hoodies and now we're suits and, you know, getting a lot more sophisticated. As I think distributed ledger technology, certainly crypto is a very esoteric word, right? It means quite a lot, but also quite a little. Distributed ledger technology is clearly being recognized as an impactful technology and it's bringing national banks into the conversation. So absolutely delighted to be sat opposite you. And I think my first question for you is, working at a national bank, how are you guys looking at this kind of disruptive technology? Is it, oh, okay, this is something that could fundamentally change things like money, the markets, the financial markets, which is, you know, is a little bit separate. How are you guys viewing this disruptive technology?
That's a great question. As a national bank and as part of the Eurosystem, the European Central Bank, monetary sovereignty and stability of financial markets is our main objective, right? It's monetary policy, preserving price stability. And these days, especially payments is at the core of all of this. Payments is critical infrastructure. It's basically the heartbeat of our entire economy. If you cannot pay anymore at the point of sale, like our whole economy couldn't function properly anymore. And that's exactly where in the digital era, it's important to preserve independence, not being dependent on foreign companies. We all know them. Yes. They are typically US-based, whether it's for credit card payments or mobile payments. And also in the digital ecosystem, when we're talking about more the crypto markets, we have stable coins, and they are also dominated by US dollar stable coins as well. So we are looking into this. What do we have to do to preserve the function of the euro and to preserve monetary sovereignty?
Yeah, this is absolutely a matter of major importance. You know, you think about monetary sovereignty, it gives nations their power, really, in many regards. It gives the citizens their power. It's an extremely important issue and topic. And if you look at, for example, stablecoins, what are we, 98% US denominated stablecoins? And if you look at MiCA regulations, I believe MiCA actually came about on the back end of Libra. So if you look at what Facebook or Meta, as it's now called, were trying to do with Libra, MiCA came in the wake of that. MiCA has been something that I think has been going on for 6 years now. And that was all about ensuring, I think, a regulatory framework for kind of digital money that had sovereignty at the heart of it. And I think as a national bank, you know, this technology and what it could enable from competitors, from other nations, has really got to be at the forefront of your mind, being that central banks are all about stability, right? That's what you're there to do. You're there to service the people.
Exactly. Now, we are not just looking into DLT specific, like when it comes to the digital euro, the retail CBDC, we just had an announcement yesterday, public announcement, which lays the foundation for the next phases and the future timeline of the project, with an expected go live in somewhere 2029.
Okay.
So that's the rough outlook for now. There are obviously also a lot of regulatory and political discussions taking place, and also a lot of development that has to be done there. But it's also important to mention that on that front, the Eurosystem is not looking towards blockchain technology. That is a clear differentiating factor. But we also see, and in that case, we see a role for stablecoins under MiCA, Euro stablecoins, which is also something that together with BCG, the Austrian National Bank, published a nice paper, if I can advertise it here, where we will we go into more detail where we see the different roles and our view on the outlook as well.
I think that's a very important distinguish to make, is the digital euro actually isn't planning on kind of leveraging distributed ledger technology. There's a certainly in the crypto space a belief that the digital euro is built on almost public blockchains. That's not the fact of the matter at all. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit, because this is very educational, I think, because truly I believe the kind of stigma is that the digital euro is going to run on DLT, cryptos. Not the case, and we should distinguish this. Stablecoins, yes, most likely.
Most.
Most, but the digital euro perhaps not. Could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so what I can say, I can't go into much detail, but it's simply not the idea, or it's not the use case for the digital euro. The digital euro is the idea is to bring a cash-like function in the digital age.
Okay.
It's basically cash in a digital age.
Yep.
Also enabling offline payments, for example, this will be a key use case as well. And stablecoins simply have a different role.
Yes.
And public blockchains, just to touch on the more technical part for a second, everybody can be part of a public blockchain, and everybody can play a role, and you don't want that for obvious reasons when you want independence from bad actors there as well.
Yeah,
and designing such a ecosystem.
Yeah, with huge ramifications, right? We're talking about money here. We're talking about something, money, financial instruments, things like this that impact all our lives. We were just talking about financial literature and how actually crypto's been very good at getting people financially educated. You know, they've had to kind of understand it. You know, Bitcoin initially came about perhaps as an alternative to sort of what's termed the fiat systems, money as it were. Not a great term, I'm sure.
We say public money. That's also, you won't find the term fiat here in the paper. It's public money for us.
Yeah. So, but people have had to kind of understand the world as it was. And actually, I think crypto has a great sort of testimony to that. But it's a very important subject matter, really, in regards to the Austrian National Bank. You know, is there anything you guys are doing right now? Obviously, the digital euro, we've just addressed that, and we've addressed some of the myths around that. Have you got a sort of like wholesale CBDC program? I know you've just cited this, euro money tokens, potential economic roles of CBDCs and euro denominated stablecoins. What are the National Bank of Austria currently doing right now as it relates to distributed ledgers? Yes,
that's a great question. Now, we always have to differentiate, of course, between what we are doing ourselves and what we are doing as being part of the euro system and being in working groups with all the other member states and all the other national banks. We internally, we have a pilot platform, you could say. We have an innovation hub where several colleagues built a platform to explore tokenization of an asset, of an Austrian government bond.
Yes.
Together with the Austrian Treasury. They're part of this, it's called the Delphi project. Delivery versus payment hybrid initiative is the keyword. And together with the Austrian Treasury, with Raiffeisen and Erste Group as commercial banks, and also the Austrian CSD, the ÖKB, as a central security depository. We built this platform, and also to exchange thoughts and to actually do something, not just look into it from a theoretical point of view, but to have it on a blockchain. We actually run it on or ran it entirely in-house developed on our servers to be safe, of course, for many reasons. But it uses an Ethereum EVM. So also for coding the smart contracts. Basically, to really look into it and to get hands-on, I would say, together with the other market participants. And with this pilot, with this tokenized asset, as an experiment, we took part in the Eurosystem initiative, the Eurosystem exploratory work on new technologies for wholesale settlement. That's a very long and complex name. But in key, it's about interbank transactions, capital market, DVP, delivery versus payment settlement. If we're talking about the future capital market, maybe a tokenized asset, tokenized bond trading against a CBDC, and that was conducted during 2024.
Wow.
There are a lot of nice reports and figures and statistics and insights from all the participants. There were 2 waves with more than 60 participants, more than 200 transactions in total, 1.6 billion of volume, and 1 billion of that were actual trials. So trials and experiments. The trials were real transactions. Maybe some of you who are following the space know, for example, a 300 million bond from Siemens.
Yes, of course.
Got issued. These are under all of these under this initiative, and the outcome is everybody looked at the results, and the ECB took a survey from market participants. There was a lot of exchange. And what is the next step for the market, right? Because you have all of these participants looking into developing or continuing to develop their platforms for asset tokenization or an exchange for trading, for example. And they are waiting, how will the central bank react? What will be the next move? And that's where Pontes, the Pontes pilot, Pontes from Latin, the bridge, it bridges traditional central bank money from the target system into to settle on a market DLT.
Oh, wow.
With tokenized assets.
Okay.
And that has a clear timeline with third quarter next year. You can also find more on that in the paper or also online, and there will probably be more announcements in due course. And this has, it's an immediate or as quick of a solution as the Eurosystem can offer and develop with some adjustments. And it will be the first option to have an atomic settlement with a DLT asset and this bridge. But it's just DVP settlement.
Of course.
Not, for example, PVP might be coming in the future as well. There probably will be also adjustments in the future, but it remains to be seen how quick and how much can be continued to be developed on the Pontes pilot. And then there's the second track that's also running in parallel, which is Appia, which is for like the road ahead into how a future capital market might look like.
Okay.
And this has a more strategic and analytical approach. So it's not immediately developing some kind of solution. Like it has to be a blockchain looking like that. People in the crypto ecosystem know much more about all kinds of blockchains and what were proposed over the years. But Appia is really bringing together public and private stakeholders, which is also important. We are trying to discuss actively with all market participants and also with regulators to openly discuss how a future capital market infrastructure would look like.
And do you see a world perhaps where you could see perhaps public distributed ledgers interacting with perhaps private ledgers launched by central banks, the digital euro? Do you see a world where public distributed ledgers can play a role? For example, in the UK really has a major FX market. I think it accounts for all of around about half of the FX volume globally. It's about $5 trillion, perhaps daily, that takes place in the UK. What we saw was the settlement of the FX market with tokenized money market funds. We saw that actually takes place on a public distributed ledger. Do you see a world in the future, or do you think this is plausible? I know there's a lot of questions that, and an absolute credit to the National Bank of Austria for doing what they do a brilliant job of, and that is securing stability. You're not looking to rush into anything because there's huge ramifications of all this. But do you see a world where public distributed ledgers can play a role in perhaps capital markets?
There are definitely some market participants or solutions looking into leveraging, like at the infrastructure level, leveraging public ledgers. And the question, of course, will be, as I said, the question for a future CBDC, wholesale CBDC, is going to be exactly on what technology and what stack it will run.
Yep.
But obviously the central bank, the ECB, will have and need to have control over that. That's the main idea of central bank money, right? So nobody can tamper with it, or unwanted actors can have access to that. But when it comes to interlinking these platforms, or when it comes to the different roles of market participants, it's definitely going to be, for now, an open question, which we all have to look into the different options and assess them, and then find out eventually where we will go in the future.
Yeah. And do you think that there's a kind of, I guess, evolution of, I did a panel yesterday, maybe asking you this a little bit personally, in regards to tokenization. Okay, tokenization of financial instruments. If you look at, I still in my office have printouts of stock ownership papers, right?
I do too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I collect. I collect all forms of things that most people probably find very boring. But if you look at how the stock market, for example, operated years ago, it's very archaic if you compare it to today. And then we've gone through, as technologies arise, sort of technological unlocks that bring major efficiencies. Do you think tokenization, certainly for, if we use the equity markets, for example, or, financial markets more broadly, talk about tokenizing bonds, for example. Do you think that perhaps tokenization is the future of markets, in the same way that we don't sort of do things, I don't hand you a stock certificate nowadays. You can ask for one, right? But typically that's not how it's done and recorded.
So maybe on a more personal view, I would definitely say that I think it will be part of the future for sure. The question is also how fast this change will take place. Also, for example, listening to people like Larry Fink, he's
big advocate
at the forefront of the biggest asset manager in the world. So if these people are pushing for this, we always have to think, okay, some of it might be a marketing move as well, but still there is something happening, and that's easy to spot. We can see the appeal of stablecoins for multiple reasons. We also have to see if for stablecoins, we also have to see how this will maybe change or adjust based on interest rates, right? Because Tether is earning a lot of money because US is having a high interest rates, right? So that's why it's profitable for them. If we would go back, maybe eventually at some point the US has low interest rates again, then who knows how profitable it will be in the future for Tether. And that's why we also look at it from a stability point of view. That's why we have MiCA in the EU. And that's why some European issuers who are looking into stablecoins, they also already approach issuing a stablecoin with having in mind to be safe when interest rates are not at a level anymore, because
you don't want run.
Nobody knows where interest rate, even we can't predict, the future of interest rates, right? That's from that perspective. When we are talking to banks, especially on in the Austrian market, there is still some they're still hesitant, I would say, for some reasons, because the main point is for tokenization, okay, how will the consumer benefit in the end? How will the consumer have a product he didn't have before, for example? But there is a clear shift that we could notice in the last months or in the last year, especially, that there's more excitement coming into this space. And we definitely see the biggest potential or movement happening with tokenized money market funds on a global scale right now. And that's probably one of the first main use cases of tokenized. We have stable coins and we have tokenized money market funds. For equities, it's probably really, really a long way still, because there is no clear idea or guideline regulatory framework how to tokenize an equity stock in Europe, for example. So that probably really will take a while. Also, something that was discussed at the conference, for example, by several people, was more like private markets.
Yes.
Private equity and so on could also be a huge point for
Tokenization.
in the future.
Yeah. We speak with people that have tokenized commercial real estate, billions of dollars of commercial real estate, and it does very interesting things because it kind of democratizes that market. You think about commercial real estate, this is quite a big barrier to entry in regards to commercial real estate often. If you can tokenize, you can fractionalize, you can democratize, you can globalize, often. And I think there's a real unlock with DLT technology. And actually one reason I like talking with national banks is because they allow me to take a step back. Sometimes I get very hyped in regards to this space, but when you talk about adoption from a national bank level, it needs to be done in a very stable manner. It needs to be done in a manner that isn't going to impact negatively, certainly the jurisdiction in which the national bank operate. And I absolutely love your approach. But I think one thing to really take from this is just how, the fact that you guys are actively looking into this technology.
Yeah, that's probably a main takeaway, whether it's with the CBDC or just observing the market or from a financial stability point of view. We're definitely also having our eyes on this technology.
Yep.
and what's happening in the markets, what's happening for the consumers, why are consumers moving into this, why are consumers investing into crypto assets, for example. Those are all topics handled by a different departments or
Yep.
different people who are expert on that level. And yeah, it's a technology in the end. That's also to come back to one thing you said, and it was already also mentioned at several discussions.
Yep.
That tokenization or DLT is not crypto per se. It's part of it, or it's the technology that combines it, and there are multiple applications.
Yeah.
Or will be multiple applications of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Max. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, just the presence of national banks really shows how far this technology's came, and I think they introduce a real sensible approach to it. So, Max, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.